Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a really simple pumpkin. We're going to do it step by step for beginners. Should be a really easy project that you can do for Halloween, fall time. I've got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's in a chat for our live show tonight. So if you've got questions on painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I am using a 12 by 12 inch canvas tonight. This is the Pro Series Dixie cotton canvas from Fredrix. They're awesome. They got nice thick sides. So I painted mine with burnt umber, just plain old burnt umber. It really didn't do a very good job. It's pretty spotty, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to be painting over the whole thing. I just wanted kind of a dark color underneath. And I used chalk to draw on my pumpkin. I'll do that with you guys later here, but I want to go over our brushes and everything. I'm going to be using my Aspen brushes. These are a little bit stiffer bristled. So I think we're going to do a lot of dry brushing tonight. It's a really easy technique for beginners to learn because you don't use a lot of paint, so it's a little bit easier to control. So we'll be doing a lot of layering on this pumpkin, and so we're going to want just a few brushes that'll fit inside. So whatever size pumpkin that you're going to be doing, you're just going to want to pick some brushes that can kind of fit in each of these sections. So I've got an 8, a 6, and a 4 Filbert here. And then I've got a 12 bright and a 6 angle brush. The 12 bright would just be for like some of the larger background areas. That's what I used to put on the brown. And the angle brushes are really good for getting in little sections where you need to kind of tuck in some color. So we'll probably be using that for our straw and maybe for some of our leaves. And then for some of more like smaller details, we've got a 2/0 number 2 and a number 4 round. Not sure that I'm going to need all of these brushes, but I just grabbed the ones that I thought might be most useful. And I've got a number 4 bright also. So that's another little square brush that we can use for some of the smaller details. Okay, so let's go over our colors. Oh, one other thing. Sorry, I forgot.
That was timed perfectly too.
So we're going to want a fan brush for this, just for these particular flowers up here, these white flowers. I think the fan brush is going to do a good job on them. So I think we'll use that for that. And then I've also grabbed my 3/8 inch blender in case we want to use it on any of the blended areas. I'm not really sure we're going to need it, but I grabbed it just in case. Okay, so let's go over our colors. I've got burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone burnt orange, cadmium orange, Indian yellow hue, yellow oxide, cadmium yellow medium, phthalo green yellow shade, phthalo blue green shade, dioxazine purple, quinacridone magenta, and cadmium red light. And I've got unbleached titanium, titanium white, and some glazing medium. Wow, it is going off the edge of the thing there. That's weird. My palette cam is angled weird. Okay. So if you don't have all these colors, just use what you have that's similar. You're just going to want some orange and yellows. So whatever you've got in your arsenal, just get an array of red oranges to yellow oranges to yellows to use for your pumpkin, and you should be fine. The browns also, same deal like this quinacridone burnt orange, just kind of a reddish burnt orange color. So if you don't have that one, don't worry about it. You can use kind of like a magenta. If you've got quinacridone magenta, which I suggest you get, that's like one of the number 1 colors I would get. That one and some brown should get you a color that's similar. All right, let's get to drawing here. I think I'm just going to, I guess I'll draw it on paper here. I'm going to do it by outlining it, but I'll just do it on paper real quick. It's very, very easy to draw. Let's see here. Let me grab one of my pencils. Okay, that'll work. So we're doing it on a 12 inch. This is going to have to be a little bit smaller, obviously, because this is only 9 inches wide on my paper here. Let me try to make sure that there we go. All right. So with the pumpkin, I am going to be fitting him into my canvas. So that's what I just use my hands usually, just kind of figure out where I want to place him, how big I want to place him, and kind of get an idea of my borders and just kind of mark that so that I sort of know where it's going to go. Very, very lightly, just kind of place him in. And this one is almost like a square. These ones go this way, and then he kind of has like a rounded top right here, but this whole section is pretty flat almost. Then it rounds out again, kind of flattens out again slightly, rounds out again here. This whole area back here is really rounded. And then from here up to this point, it's also kind of rounded. So if you look at the outside borders of your pumpkin, and also it can help to like turn it. It's actually a little bit wider on these two sides. So because we're looking at it at an angle, if it was perfectly round this way, say like it's perfectly round here, as we're looking at an angle, the sides are going to get wider, and these 2 points are going to be smaller. So that's what's happening with our pumpkin. It's just a little bit smaller from here to here than it is from here to here. So I'm just going to widen out that point and this point just a little bit. Like that.
So it looks like it's a little bit larger than a small guac.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. If you missed that discussion was Saturday's show, I guess.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
All right. So here's our center of our pumpkin. The very center of it is just below the top or the bottom of the center section here of it. So find your center and then just go just above it a little bit. And you're going to draw a pentagon like this. Kind of like that. It's curved here, sides. And then in the middle of it, there's kind of a rounded area there. Okay. Then now all we have to do is go off from each one of these points. And we're going to have our sections of our pumpkin. Okay. So like that. And then I'm going just to continue these lines and round out those sections. So I'm going to round out that one. And then right in the middle from this one here, there's another section that splits this and this in the middle. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to go all the way to the edge, kind of my boundary line here. And I'm going to bring it in, round it out. And then as you get these, you can start to erase so you have a better idea of what you're working with. Okay, like that. Bring that one up just a little bit. And then here's our little one. And remember, now here's our line. So the tendency is to want to really go outside, but I'm going to stay inside my line. So I'm coming in, about an inch from the edge here and coming up and around. Split this in half right here. So between these two lines here, kind of splitting it, doing a nice big rounded section here. And if you look at them, they kind of look like hearts. So if you look at here to here, like it looks like a little heart. So just kind of round out that heart shape right there. See, like that. And then this one is from right about in here. There's a good size V right there. Round it out. Keep it low. Here's our border, so don't go too far out. I mean, it's okay to go out a little bit, but don't get too crazy with it because we've kind of already figured out how big these borders should be. So kind of trust what you'd already figured out there. Because when you're doing one little section, sometimes it can be easy to forget, the whole. So you're just looking at this one thing and you feel like it should be bigger maybe. And there we go. And then this one is kind of got a little bitty baby one right here, tucked in right here, and then it splits again right here. This is all the way out to that outside border there. And then another one here that's a little bit wider. There's another one here, but it doesn't really have a very pronounced dip in between this one and this one, so they're pretty close to being even. Round it out here, and then this one, remember, right there is going to come down, round out like that, split it in the, this one's actually got 2 splits down the middle. So this one is really kind of split in 2 parts here. So this one is kind of like that. And then it's got another split on this side of it. So we split this one in half between these 2 sections in half, and then split this one just a little bit more right there. One more time. Round it out. Do these little V's, dips in between the sections. And there you go. There's our pumpkin. Okay, so not hard to draw. Our little leaves that we're going to be doing later are going to be like a ivy shape. So they are kind of flat on top, pointed on the side. So if you do like a broken T or an arrow like that, like an arrow, and then kind of dip around the sides of those, and then do kind of almost a point at the tip. That's how you do your ivy. Arrow, slight rounded here, slight rounded here. Some have a really pronounced point here too. Some ivies, this one looks like it's a little bit softer, rounded areas. It's like not a pointed ivy, but that's going to be our ivy, and it's going to kind of meander in through that. Okay. All right. There's our drawing.
Okay. I got 2 things.
Okay.
First thing, I think that this painting is going to be gorgeous.
Dad joke number 1. Check.
Check. And then somebody actually wanted to know what's the difference between cad yellow and chrome yellow.
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay.
But if you look at usually painting websites will have breakdowns of the chemicals that they use in their paints.
So the makers of the paint.
The makers of the paint should be able to tell you if it's, what chemicals are in it, and then you can compare it with what's in the cadmium colors. It doesn't sound like it's probably cadmium, but if it's close enough, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be the same. Okay, go ahead and zoom back out there, honey. All right, so let's go ahead and paint our straw and everything around our pumpkin first, and then we'll work on the inside of the design. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Angle Bright here, number 6. Really, any brush that you've got that's got a point, you could use a flat brush for this. I prefer using angular brushes or flat brushes for long lines, just because you can load them up with a lot more paint. You could look at, to get a small line for our straw, we've got this much surface area on our brush, on a round brush, but we've got this much surface area to hold paint on an angle brush, and we can still get it just the same width. So that's why I like to use these angle brushes. If you don't have one, or angle or flat brush to do this kind of thing. All right, I'm gonna get some. I've got yellow oxide, added some unbleached titanium here, grabbed some white, added it over here. I'm gonna add some brown over here, do some different, I'm just gonna make up some different colors of straw. So get some of the, maybe get a little bit of the orange, have some orange pieces. And if you look at the straw, it's got all these different colors going on in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of scoop up all these colors on here. It doesn't have to be like, real clean. And I'm just going to start laying them in different directions. So go right up to the pumpkin and pull down in different directions. The straw is kind of all sort of going in the same direction in this, like it's all it's probably sitting on a hay bale. So, it's all stuffed in kind of in the same direction, but there are some that are stray that are kind of going across. So it doesn't have to be perfectly clean. So I'm just kind of going up through here and adding, overlapping different colors. So every now and then I'm going to grab the lighter color and do some really long ones, do some shorter ones. These are really fun to do. And that dark background really kind of helps just make it pop off the canvas. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing good. I'm watching you.
Okay.
How
one
you
thing
do?
I would say, good. My brush is starting to get sort of fuzzy. My brush strokes are getting wide, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit of water and just smush that brush flat, so that I can get a thinner line with it. Push that brush flat. So whatever it's doing here before you go to canvas is what it's going to do down here. So if you're like my straw is looking too wide or it's just not looking right, then you check your brush, check how you're loading it. It may just be that you need to take all your paint out of it, clean it out, and start over with a fresh brush, fresh loaded brush, freshly loaded. Okay, that's the word.
I want to say hi and welcome to everybody also.
Yes.
Everybody else, the like 4 other people that are with us.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you for hanging with us tonight.
Hello to all the unusual suspects.
Yes. Y'all are awesome. I would not be able to do these shows without you. Be a little bit weird. Just organized sitting in here talking to ourselves.
Well, that's just called a Saturday night.
It's true. It's true. I do. I have remarked multiple times that our shows are very much like what we do on a normal day. It's not, our conversations are this dumb and pointless.
Yeah.
It's nothing new. We're not putting on a show. This is just how we do.
We're not very deep people. At least one of us isn't.
I do read more than he does. So I have that claim to fame. But yeah. All right. A little bit more brown. I think I'm going to bring them up just a little bit more because I can see that there's just a few like little things hanging out up here. So I'm just going to kind of maybe add just a few little wispies in the background here to kind of add some detail. We're going to have lots of leaves and things back here, but it won't hurt anything just to kind of have some of this going on back here in case we can see through some of these areas. Just be able to kind of connect it all visually.
Real quick.
All right. Looks good.
Somebody would like to know what is a good substitute for the Indian yellow.
Indian yellow is just kind of a golden yellow. So there's quinacridone nickel azo gold. That's really good color. That would be like my first choice, but there's also a Matisse color that's called Australian Sienna, I think. That's real similar, but it's just here. I'll add some white to it. You can see the undertones. It's just kind of a really bright golden yellow when you add white to it. So it's not too far off of your cadmium yellow if you added some white to it, but it's really transparent. So it's really nice. You can get a little bit deeper oranges. So your yellow oxide is somewhat similar to, although this is prettier. I think it's a brighter color than the yellow oxide. So you could just add a tiny touch of orange to your cadmium yellow and maybe get something similar. I'm going to go, speaking of yellow, I'm going to go ahead and use this while I've got it on here. Just use some of this in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to glaze, which that sounds scary, weird, but it's really not, and it's not hard. It's just meaning that we're going to be adding some color over the top of these to transparent color to shade it. So, and that will make it look like the pumpkin's laying on top of this grass. But first I have to let it dry. So I'm going to, while this is drying, I'm going to work on my greenery up here. So for the green part, I'm going to grab my phthalo green. If you don't have it, just mix up some green with yellow and blue. If you've got a bright blue like this phthalo blue, it's going to make a brighter green. If you've got ultramarine blue, it's going to make kind of a more, what word am I thinking? Khaki green, kind of a army green. So we're using phthalo blue, phthalo green, cadmium yellow here, making a really bright green, and then I'm going to add burnt sienna to it to tone it down, make it a little bit more of a natural looking green. And then over here I'm going to grab some purple and my green. I added the Dioxazine Purple at the last minute, so it's not on my list up yet, but I'm going to be adding it to my list. And then some brown, so kind of equal parts brown and purple and green, so all three kind of in equal parts. It's going to make a really, really dark green, and that's going to be for our background. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm just going to dab this green in here over the top of my straw. This is the darkest green. Make sure I have it fairly thick on my brush. And I'm holding my brush fairly far back too, if you notice. And that kind of helps give me a little bit more distance here. And I'm picking up water every now and then because my paints are going to need to be kept moist. Your brush needs to be kept moist while you're working. And if I do it thick enough, then I can cover over this yellow without having it show through too much. Spray my canvas there. Get some more of this purple dark. It's really dark in here, so I'm going to really darken up that area there. That brown's also not dark enough, so I'm going to mainly fill in this area, mostly with this dark green. Okay, and then just dab in some more of this. Let's go ahead and start grabbing this middle color. And my brush stroke that I'm using is I'm pointing my brush down and I'm just dabbing it in different directions. You can see how by dabbing it in different directions with the point down, I'm just flicking it in different directions, I can get these leaf shapes real easily off this brush. I'm using some of the lighter color now. And we're not going to get super fussy with the leaves and make them look, you know, super detailed. This is just going to be kind of a beginner project. So I'm going to keep it in very kind of abstracted, not abstracted really, but expressive, I should say. That's the word I'm looking for. Expressive. So we're just going to kind of dabble them on here and not worry too much about them being perfect. Or believe it or not, your eye will kind of fill in the details for you. As long as you get these kind of green shapes and generally the right place. We're going to be putting flowers. So here I'm adding yellow oxide to the green now. And make another green, just another different green to add to the mix. All these different layers will add depth to our painting. If you really want to get fancy, every now and then, like one of them, you can maybe do like a 3-leaved or like the little ivy shape on one of them. And that way, if you've got enough of those like little ivy shaped ones here and there, it'll your eye will kind of fill in the rest for the rest of them that are not fully detailed. And really, that's the way it is in nature. If you look at a plant, all of the leaves are going to, even an ivy leaf that's, say this is my leaf, if it's bent in a different direction, it's going to have all these different shapes. You're not going to actually see the full on leaf shape on all of the leaves. In fact, you're probably not going to see it at all, except for maybe, very few times in your plant. Most of the times you're going to be seeing overlapping, and you're going to be seeing like leaves that are kind of facing away from you and parts of leaves. So, if you did do leaf everywhere, it would look a little bit unnatural, because your eye would pick up on the fact that that's really not the way a plant does grow. So, all right, I'm going to use this.
How I would do.
That's not how we do. No, that's my new favorite saying after watching that. What show is that? I can't remember. We watched the Hummingbird show.
Hummingbird video.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have not laughed that hard in forever. What's the name of the show? The guy? I can't remember.
It is Z.E. Frank 1, all one word.
Wow, that's yeah. I have a feeling he's got a lot of subscribers. He's not hurting. He doesn't need our shout out, in other words. But oh my gosh, I laughed so hard watching his hummingbird explanation. He does like animal documentary kind of style. I wonder if he did the honey badger one. I would not be surprised if he did that honey badger one from years ago that went viral.
Yeah.
That started the honey badger. Don't give a blank saying. Okay, adding just some of this yellow that I had mixed before. Look at how pretty that is. We have not done anything but just little dabs, little tiny dabs here and there. But because we're layering and we started with the dark and working our way mid-tones, and then now the lightest tones, this really will give us a lot of details. So now I'm just adding those little centers of the flowers, the little buds. Pretty. Add some over here. Really fun. This is very once you get in the rhythm of it, it's just very stress relieving for me. I don't know. I really like painting flowers and leaves and things like this, because it's just you just kind of let everything go and just let it happen, It is what it is. You can't get too stressed out when you're painting flowers. Maybe you can. But I hope you will approach your painting with kind of a mindset of enjoying the process and not necessarily being so keyed into what the finished result is, especially when you're first learning it. It's just, you're going to have a better time of it if you just go into it knowing, it may not look perfect. It's going to be your painting. So, and if you are a beginner, I've been painting for 30 something years. So my painting is going to look different from yours, just like my, if I tried to play a musical instrument, I would not play as well as somebody who'd been playing a musical instrument for 30 years, right? It's just the fact of the law of, how things work. So go into it with the knowledge that, you're learning it. It's going to maybe be a little awkward at first. It may not turn out the way you really want it to, maybe. But each time you paint, it's a new experience. It's a new step in your journey, and you can learn things. And so if you kind of just enter into it with a learning mindset and kind of like a child would, I really think that that's one of the reasons I really love painting with children. I'm just mixing up more of that dark color because I ran out of it. That purple, black, brown, or purple, brown, green. Because children just they're all about the process of it, right? They're not really worried about how it looks. And theirs is not going to look all, like a professional finished painting a lot of times, but the results are always usually much more charming, much more interesting, than somebody, than something I could come up with, So I really love that about the way children approach art. And I think that we could learn a lot from that mindset. Okay. So, I'm just realizing that I painted over this section. I should have done the glazing first, but I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to get my big brush because the glazing, it'll be a little bit easier with the larger brush. So I'm going to get lots of water on my brush and I'm just going to brush it off the side here. And I'm going to use the burnt umber. So I'm going to grab the burnt umber just on the corner of this brush. And I'm not getting a whole lot of paint. I'm just getting a little bit of paint right on the corner there. It's already starting to get dry. We can turn off that air if you don't mind, hon. I don't know if we can do that, but it's blowing right on my paints. Thanks. I can feel it on the back of my neck. So, all right. So I am getting some white water here. So I loaded it up, found a clean spot here, pressed down nice and hard so that paint spreads out in my brush like this. And then right here, I want it to be fairly clean. So I'm just going to wipe that end off, pick up a little bit of water, and then wipe it off again until I don't see a lot of paint coming off of there. Okay, that's good enough. So I've got color here and not a lot of color back here. And then I'm going to go right up against this, and this has to be dry. So, and I'm going to use glaze since I have it. If you don't have glaze, you can just use the water, but the glaze will help it stick a little bit better to the canvas. If you have it, use it. So I'm going to use it right up against that pumpkin there and pick up a little bit more. Really need a bigger area here to work with, but I don't have it. So I'm just going to use what I've got. Go right up to that pumpkin and get it nice and dark right up underneath that pumpkin. I'm even going to grab a little bit of purple. Purple might seem like a weird color to use, but it is one of the darkest colors, and aside from black, that you can use. So it's great for shadows and things. It's not going to hurt a thing here. And then if I get too much, or if it looks so thick that it's covering up your straw, you have way too much paint in your brush. So back off. I have very little paint on here. It should be transparent. So I should not be putting down color that is covering over anything. It should be see-through. I should still be able to see all my layers when I lay this down. So very little paint, and then some glaze or some water. Spread it out. Get a little bit more of that purple to get a little bit darker. Okay, and I'm going to go right up under here. I'm hoping this green is dry enough. It's probably not. I'm going to try to get in between my leaves. Just do the leaves later. Don't do them right now. Okay, getting as close as I can there without picking up that green. And just brushing it on. You can see I'm not doing it in one brush stroke. It's fine. You can dab it on. Just as long as it's going on transparently. And you can do this multiple times. So if it's not dark enough the first time, it's probably better than it being too dark and being too obvious. This should be pretty subtle if you do it correctly. So we're just wanting to add just a little hint of shadow in and around our straw. And so now I'm going to put it in some other areas. I'm going to hold my brush kind of at an angle and kind of go over the top of some of these straw pieces here. And just add some darkening areas over the top of that straw.
Hey, real quick, what is your background color again?
Burnt umber.
Just burnt umber.
That's it.
Straight up.
Yep. Burnt umber. All right, I think that's going to be good enough. Let's leave that. Okay, and then I'll probably just add like one more layer of my straw in the brightest colors, and that'll be all we need to do. All right, I'm going to get some more yellow, a little bit of the white, mix it up here with the green. I'm going to do some of the green dabs over here. Notice I don't have any of the buds over here. Okay, and then I'm going to use the yellow and that green kind of color with my white, yellow, a little bit of the green. Here I'm just using what was left over here. It doesn't really matter. Just picking up just a tiny touch of green, but mostly yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and do my stems on these flowers over here. So there's just all these kind of flowers that are hanging out over our, well, that's a little thick, but hanging out over this corner here. And each one of these I'm going to add white to. So I'm kind of going this direction, and then as I'm getting around my pumpkin here, some of them are going kind of downward. Going off the canvas there. Just overlap them. There we go. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll add our details to these later.
And which brush are you using?
That was the angle brush again. Still same thing that I was using before.
Which line though? Which?
Number 6. The Aspen. Princeton. Princeton is our brush sponsor, so thank you to them for providing our brushes, and Fredrix is our canvas sponsor. Forgot to mention that at the beginning, but they're awesome companies. We love their products. So, all right, let me see here. What size do I want to use? I think I'm going to use this one. Well, you really want to start with, you want to use the largest brush that you can control. So that's the main thing. The faster you lay your paint down, the better, the easier it's going to be. So go ahead and grab this. In this case, I'm grabbing the number 6. This is the 12-inch canvas, so number 6 seems to be just like the happy medium size here for these detail areas. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of work on the outline of the shapes of the pumpkin here. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Cadmium Red Light and my brown, my burnt umber. And create kind of a rusty brown color. And then I'm going to use the Unbleached Titanium to lighten it up just a little bit. These areas in between are actually kind of gray, so I'm going to be using some gray in here, but I'm going to start with this kind of orange color first, just to kind of do my outline. And I'm just using the edge of it, this brush, to draw in these sections, not being particularly careful about it. You can see just laying in some color. And if you're having trouble controlling this brush, you could use a round brush. Round brush would work for this too. I grabbed this one because I'm going to be using the flat side of it here in a minute to do some of the smaller areas, but I'm just kind of turning it around to fit it in here. Brushing out those edges so they're a little bit fuzzy, so they're not like super hard edges. That'll make it easier to add more colors later. Okay, there we go. Let me go ahead and grab some of this if I can get it while it's still wet. That straw color is about the color that's the center part of our pumpkin. Let's get some of the unbleached titanium, some of this yellow oxide mixture here. I'm just going to dab it on because it's kind of got a lot of the brown showing. So I'm just going to kind of dab and pull. Just got the tip of the brush loaded. I don't have a lot of the paint on here. I'm letting that brown in the background kind of tint it too, or show through, I should say, like that. Okay, that's all I'm going to do right now. I'm going to use some of this lighter color on parts where I see that there's lighter seams. And just kind of very lightly brushing this. This is that dry brushing technique that I was telling you about. This brush is wet, so it's not technically dry brushing, but you're getting that same effect. The dry brushing technique creates these textural lines where you're seeing the texture of the canvas. That's what we're trying to capture, is that kind of look of the texture of the canvas. Ooh, got some green there. Actually, there is some green in here though, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that while I've got it on the brush. Might as well. This one right here, it's got some dark area right here. Here.
Got a question.
Okay.
They would like to know, do you have any tips on how to not overthink or overwork your paintings?
I think one of the main things is to just kind of stop frequently and look at it from a distance. So, because it can be real, like you get tunnel vision when you're sitting here looking at it so closely for hours and hours. So if you just kind of schedule in some breaks to kind of stop and take a break for a minute and then come back and look at it, even take a day or two, set it up in your living room. A lot of times if there's something that you need to change, you'll be able to tell. But if you just kind of sit and try to work it, and you don't have a clear vision for where you're going with it, that's when you tend to kind of go off the rails a little bit. So once you get to where you kind of don't know what else to do to fix it or to do something, just stop and come back to it another time. And it can be the same day if you've only got a certain amount of time to paint. But ideally, if you've got a day or two where you can kind of live with it, especially when you get towards the end of the painting and you think it's getting close to being finished, that's when it really helps to kind of just set it aside and look at it multiple times. So I'm just grabbing a little bit more of the orange color now and just adding. I grabbed a little bit more of the Quinacridone Burnt Orange there. Sorry, I was talking and not telling you what I was doing there. Quinacridone Burnt Orange, don't leave me mean comments. No.
I can't guarantee anything.
That's why I tell you the colors ahead of time, because sometimes I get to talking about other things, answering questions and things, and I forget. Quinacridone Burnt Orange here, just kind of using the variety of these different colors. The dark areas are going to be mostly the Quinacridone Burnt Orange and some of the Cadmium Red Light. So those will be our shadow areas. And then I'm going to leave some of these dark brown in some of these crack areas right here, along the front, along the stem and things where I want a little bit of depth. And this doesn't have to look exactly like your pumpkin. I mean, I've done teal pumpkins before, so it doesn't have to be, there's all kinds of different. In fact, I just bought a bunch of pumpkins. They're all different colors. So yours can be different colors than mine. That's why I was saying it really doesn't matter what colors you have. Use what you've got, it doesn't have to be the same exact ones as mine. using some yellow oxide now, just mixing it in with what I'm not cleaning out my brush, and that's creating all these interesting colors. These are all going to mix well together. They're all in the same family, reds, oranges, yellows. So those are all analogous colors. They're all going to blend well together. I wouldn't mix the yellow and or the orange and the green directly, but we were blending it on top, so it wasn't mixing with anything. So it didn't really hurt anything to use it earlier when we were using that green. If you mix them together, they're going to make a brown. But for what we're doing here, we're using it such sparingly light brush strokes. Bring a little paint on my brush. So just kind of letting the pumpkin shape. And I'm also, if you notice, I'm going to go ahead and start getting some of this yellow now, the Indian yellow. I am following the shape of the section that it's in. So these lines are all going to go round out this way down, and that will help create that shape. So these ones are going to follow this line, these ones are going to follow this line, and the ones in the middle are kind of just going to go straight. So this section kind of be straight, is going to be straight. I can't talk today. And then the outer areas, I'm going to clean off this. It's just too much stuff. I can't get to my palette. I don't like to mix my colors directly into my paints because that muddies everything up, and then I don't have the clean color anymore to use, and I have to put more color out, more paint out. You waste paint if you're mixing straight into the fresh paint. Use a clear place on your palette to mix your paints. All right, let me see if I can do this. This is a glass palette, so it comes pretty nicely clean there. Okay, flip that over so I'm not picking up dirty paint in my brush as I work. Okay, so now, hey, I've got a clean spot now. I'm going to get some white. And since we're working with such a dark background, the white's going to help counteract the brown in those areas where we want this brighter yellow. So I'm using cadmium yellow and white here. And I still had of these other colors on my brush. You can see it's not clean. So, but the top part of it here is mainly yellow. And I'm just setting my brush down and very lightly brushing. I'm not pressing hard. And I'm holding it, about halfway up the brush or so. And just using this kind of flicking motion. If you need to, you can, hold your wrist up to support your arm. If you're not comfortable holding it, or you're having a hard time kind of getting it, getting your hands steady here, just kind of support your wrist a little bit. That'll help. Okay, so this is all our kind of highlighted areas on our pumpkin. I'm jumping the gun here because I haven't done my orange parts of this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it while I've got it on my brush here. And the reason I'm using this Filbert is because you can see these outer edges are rounded as I'm brushing, so it just blends in a little bit easier, smoother. It just looks a little bit better, I think, versus using a flat brush that would leave kind of a flat line or flat edge. Lifting off and just kind of dragging it as I lift it so that I'm getting these trailing ends kind of smoothed out. All right, so let's grab some more of the orange. The cadmium orange, mixing a little bit of this yellow in and blend that in now. It's just going to be a matter of layering and layering more. Just keep on adding colors, layering on the different colors. And trying to keep my separation between my sections a little bit. So I grabbed a little bit of that burnt orange there because it was kind of filling in. I think it's, I don't know how big it is actually.
We got such a formal show here.
Grabbing a little bit of the blue here, mixing a little bit of that, and I'm gonna be kind of creating a green with this orange that I had in my brush. Okay. What's the consensus? What's the consensus?
12 by 16.
12 by 16. Okay. Grabbing some more white yellow here. Okay, getting there. I'm going to mix up some more of the brighter orange here. This is the cadmium red and cadmium orange together. So this will be just like a deeper orange for some of these shadowy areas in here. Here we go. By the time we're done, we should have very little of that brown showing. We should have covered most of it with these oranges and yellows. But it doesn't hurt anything to have a little bit of it showing too. So if you like that look, go ahead and leave it. It's your painting, so you can do what looks good to you. A little bit more kind of the brighter orange there. Cadmium orange. I'm going to get some of this yellow, Indian yellow hue here and add that into. Now, if you get to a layer here, like if I keep working this layer, what's going to happen is the paint that I've already put down is going to start to dry and it's going to start getting sticky, and I'll end up kind of lifting off some of the colors. So I need to just kind of work on an area and then move on and come back to it. So that's why I'm kind of working my way around this pumpkin and then coming back to the sections, because you don't want to do too much too soon with your layers. Your layers have to dry in between or they will not be layers, they'll be blended. So, getting some yellow oxide, really just all these different colors, just kind of using them in different ways, in different places here. The yellows are mostly in our highlighted areas though, which are kind of towards the centers of the pumpkin. And then the oranges are going to be around the outer areas, and then you're going to have your browns and greens kind of in the cracks in between. So that's kind of general rule of thumb where I'm putting these colors, because I'm working kind of quickly here and I just want to make sure that you kind of know where to put these colors. The yellows are going to be your light areas. And this is that cadmium red orange mixture. Cadmium red and orange mixture. Let's do some right here. And you can see I'm leaving a little bit of that original orange in places too. This original color that we put around, so we can leave that showing through. I think getting the curves right and getting the knack of this brush stroke here, the kind of that lift, is probably going to be the trickiest part for people. But I think if you kind of work small and just work in small areas, I think it's definitely doable. And just know that nothing is set in stone. You can always go back over it, put as many layers as you need to until you like it. So if you don't like it, it's not looking like you want it to, just continue working on it. And paintings go through several what I call ugly stages, where they don't look all that great until kind of the last few brush strokes sometimes. I'm using the white and unbleached titanium here, but I've got all these other colors on my brush, so it's not clean color. All right, that's feeling sticky, so that's still kind of wet. I need to leave that alone. So I'm just going to move on. And you can tell it's sticky if you're trying to paint on an area and it's not, the paint is just not moving for you. It's just kind of getting stuck. That is a sure sign that it's trying to dry. And drying acrylics are very grumpy. They don't like to be messed with. So you have to let them dry completely before you do your next layer. Otherwise, they get real sticky. They're basically turning into plastic, and that's the binder. And it's kind of a plastic acrylic. If you know, like acrylic nails or something like that. Acrylic is like a hard plastic type of material, and so that is what is binding your paint. It's probably different kind than the nails, but it's basically the same idea. And so it's bonding together and becoming hard, and it gets super sticky because those molecules are sticking together, and it will stick to your brush, and then it will not stick to your canvas anymore if you keep messing with it while it's trying to dry. And you can kind of touch it with your finger too if you think it's dry but you're not sure. These last few ones, I'm going to be real careful about how hard I'm pressing down here, because I don't want that brush stroke to go all the way. I just want to keep it kind of in the middle area. So I'm just going to, in fact, I can kind of feather it back and forth in one area. But the more that I work an area, the more likely it is that that paint's going to start to lift. So just kind of be aware of that and move on pretty quickly. Don't try to keep blending in one little area, because it will start to dry and then you'll have problems. I'm putting yellow around the outsides of that just a little bit. And look at your reference photo every now and then, and you can look at it from a distance too. Kind of squint your eyes. That helps. All that will help kind of give you an idea of what you still need to do. And then I'm getting see, I got a little bit of it on that corner where I didn't want it, and it got over here in this area. So I could try to wipe it off, but this is still wet, so I can't do that. So I'm just going to get some of that orange that I want in that area and just blend back over it. It'll blend right over that and blend out a little bit. And there's a little bit of kind of some darker, almost gray-green color. I'm going to get a little bit of that blue and mix it with the Cadmium Red Light, and that's going to make kind of a gray. I could have used the burnt umber too if I wanted to. That's fine. I didn't want it super dark though. It's not really necessarily need to be that dark as the brown. It just needs to be kind of a little bit darker. Just Give it a little different color right there. And these are the kind of areas where you can use the smaller brush, because it is getting like a little bit hard to control this bigger brush in these smaller areas. So just kind of know that when you get to this point, if you're kind of having trouble controlling it, just switch to a different brush. Okay, let's continue with this yellow. So I'm pretty happy with these ones back here. I'm gonna get a little bit more yellow right in here. And this one in front here is getting, we're seeing the dark area that's coming around the side. So this one's a lot darker down in here than these ones were. So I'm going to get some of that burnt orange and cadmium red light for these areas and come out of this dark area here and pull it up. Again, being mindful of the curve that I'm trying to create with my brush strokes. So let's add this color to all of our pumpkins here. So I can use it to kind of outline by kind of using the edge of it, and then pull from that color while it's still wet and pull it up. And that'll give me kind of a nice blend up. And I'll blend it in so I don't have like a line there. Which if you have a line, that's fine too. It's all part of the process. Every painting's going to be a little bit different. And your brush strokes are going to be different than mine. You'll probably sign your name differently than me too. So everybody's going to have a different way of holding the brush and using it, and so your brush strokes might look a little bit different from mine. That is totally okay. This is your unique painting. Only you could create it. So just embrace that. Embrace your own style of painting. Let it happen. Don't try to fight it or paint it just like I do. I'm just showing you how I do mine, but it may not be the way that's natural to you, so that's okay too. Getting some yellow, adding it here. I really hope we get some beginners that try this, because I think that it's a good one to start with. I think it's got a lot of good techniques. Even if you're not like a huge fan of pumpkins, you know, I think it's just a good one to kind of try out some techniques that you'll need in other kind of paintings. But it's a pretty easy, forgiving subject, you know. These are one of my favorite things to paint. They're just real easy. I've done it with kids a lot, you know, different times when I used to paint with kids. They love painting pumpkins, and it always turns out really good. I always get good results with my students when we paint pumpkins. There's something about them. They're just a lot of fun. So I would say if you're like wondering what painting to start with, this would be one that I would say I think would be one of the easier ones. I might start with the lavender one that we did a couple months ago. There was a lavender field one that we did that was pretty easy. The butterfly part was hard, so if you don't draw, I would say get the traceable for it, but
there you go.
Oh yeah,
That was my cue. Sorry.
no, that I wasn't. But yeah, that we've got traceables available on Patreon. So if for all of the paintings that we do from 2017 till now, we've been doing several hundred in that time. So we do We do about 10 to 12 a month. So some months we do less than that. Like there's been some months we've only done 8 paintings a month. But still, that's a lot, and it adds up. So after 3 years, almost 4 years now on Patreon. We got lots of stuff, lots of tutorials.
Yep, and this
take that off now.
And this Sunday we got our bonus video.
Yes. Yep.
For the $5 level.
Right.
That's the level where you're still going to hear me talking.
Yes.
It's not until you get to the $10 level where I'm not usually there.
Yeah. He has to work on Thursdays, so we usually do those on Thursdays. But I make him sit through the bonus videos, which are very long usually. Mark earns his keep on bonus video nights, I have to say. He's a trooper. There's been some bonus videos that have been 6 hours or so in a setting.
It can be a little lengthy at times.
Yes. But those are all available for you to watch later. So they're all recorded, and whenever you sign up for our Patreon, you can watch them and watch all of the old ones too. So we do a new bonus video every month, and it's usually something very detailed. I don't know if I have our cat. I think actually if you click on the bonus video thing, it'll show the cat that we're doing on Sunday. We're going to do more pumpkins, so there you go. I was all about the pumpkins this year.
Let me see here.
You may have to take the...
He's probably hiding behind that.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what we're painting on our bonus video on Sunday, this Sunday, for the $5 level, folks. And I'm trying to think of what we painted. Well, last year we painted a bridge landscape, a fall landscape bridge. Just saw somebody paint it the other day. So we've got, like I said, several years worth of past bonus videos. This is the Indian Yellow and Yellow Oxide here. So again, just kind of using different combinations of these yellows and oranges to add highlights. I like how it's turning out. It's really fun. Really fun. Okay, let's see. So this one's attached to this one here. These two kind of come together right there. And this bad boy is over here on its own with this one. See how when I go over the white areas that we've done with this transparent yellow, this yellow Indian Yellow hue, it's going to tint that white highlight area almost like we're glazing, but I'm just kind of brushing over it. But if I wanted to glaze it, I could add a little bit of glazing medium and do it even more subtle glaze over the top of that area. See how pretty that is? Get some more white though. White and yellow. Really do kind of want white right there, so. Short brush strokes. Really gonna pretty much do this whole painting with this brush, I think. Don't think I'm gonna need any of those other ones that I was listing off. This one's doing just fine. Okay, so now getting my white out here, and it's got other colors that are mixing with it, so just adding some streaks. White and yellow. It kind of goes on either side of the, it's actually kind of a odd seam there. I'm going to kind of dab it. So it's kind of blended out on either side. Okay, so this is getting to where like nothing's really wanting to come off my brush. It's telling me my brush is a little bit too dry. So I'll pick up a little bit of water, a little bit more that white, a little bit more of the yellow. There we go. Now it's going to come off just nicely. It's kind of a balancing act. You don't want too much water, because if you do too much water, then it won't give you that kind of dry brush look that we're going for. But you do want it wet enough that it kind of comes off your brush easily. Otherwise, you'll just be fighting it the whole time. You don't want that. Doing a little bit more bright yellow here where the highlight area is, towards the center. Okay, getting some more of that white. Okay, then I want to fix this area here because this is not looking kind of where I want it to look. So I'm going to get some of the orange, red color that's down here in my dark areas. I'm just going to kind of clean up on either side of this white line right here as it comes down. This is where I probably should have just changed out the brush and gotten a smaller brush right there. That would have made it easier to control right there. And then I want a little bit of the dark, dark, dark. I'm even going to get a little bit of the burnt umber with the Quinacridone burnt orange and the Cadmium Red Light. And I'm going to glaze a little bit of glaze. It's still pretty heavy, but I want to go right down in there. Pull up. Kind of lost that green that I liked right there. Getting that green again. I'll put a little bit of it down here. Okay. So you want it to get darker, even though that's that we know that this is the same kind of color coming all the way down. It's getting darker as it's going down under here. So all of these white lines that are going down into our shadowed areas should be darker right in that area. Okay, pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and while that's drying, I'm going to work on my flowers. And my outlines, especially up here, are dry, so I'm just going to wipe off my chalk lines. Make sure I don't have any chalk lines. I can see what my straw looks like. Maybe grab my angle brush here and get some of the yellow oxide and unbleached titanium. And just do a few. I can even pick ones that are already there, right? Just go over the top of some of these that are already there, or I can create new ones. Either one. Either way. Just a few. You don't want to overdo this. Because the highlights are really going to draw the eye, so you want them to be just kind of enough to If you do too much of them, they kind of lose their impact. All right, I'm gonna get the white and I'm gonna test this. Maybe get a little bit of water here. I'm dipping it into the middle of the puddle of the paint, which I normally wouldn't do, but I want it pretty thick on here. And I'm gonna tap in some water so that it's kind of thinned out a little bit. And I'm gonna set it on here. I'm just gonna test it. Oh yeah, that's gonna work fine. Okay, so flatten that out. But I got a pretty good amount of paint on my fan brush here. I'm gonna set it down and create these little spiky flowers. Here, just set it down along that line. Pull down, dab. Try to keep it below the line if you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's actually on both sides of the line on some of these. I'm just gonna tap. It's actually doing better just to tap it. Looks a little bit more natural. Kind of flexing the bristles and making them fan out a little bit. See that? This is actually probably a little bit bright, but I can glaze back over it when it dries. We'll see what it looks like. I'm gonna get some of the yellow. Go back in here with some of the yellow and kind of tap in. Now the ones that are kind of in the middle here, they're kind of facing straight up towards us. So there's some that are just going to be like little short ones. Okay, I think that's good. She says as she paints more. I think that's good enough. Paint on. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave that. And like I said, I can let that dry, and if I decide I need to do some more, I can do it once it's dry. Let's get... How are we doing on time? Oh, good. We're making good time. I'm going to go ahead and use... I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use the medium, the number 2 round. Here, I'm going to grab my Quinacridone Magenta. Oops. Trying to find a clean spot. And there is actually some kind of almost reddish in the centers of some of these. So I'm going to mix up a little bit with the Cadmium Red Light there, but just figure out where I want to place my flowers. So say I'm going to put one right here. I'm just going to do the center, tap it in kind of a circle. And I'm going to make a few more like full flowers than is in the photograph. So I'm going to do at least 5 full flowers, and then we'll do some smaller ones.
Really? You?
I know. I don't know. I'm probably going to get a comment from somebody saying, like, there's not that many flowers in your picture.
You're going to put more flowers than what's in the reference photo.
But that's the joy of being an artist. You can do you. If you want more flowers, you can make them. All right, I'm gonna do white with my magenta here, and I'm just gonna kind of pull from the outside in, kind of a circle here. Just do some little petals. Letting the shape of the flower or shape of the brush kind of inform the petals a little bit. And then I'm going to get the darker magenta and go around over the top and do another layer kind of toward the center with that. some of them might be kind of sideways. So let's do this one kind of sideways. So he's just kind of facing upward right here. So we're not seeing all of him. We're just seeing this side of him. So then these petals on top are going to be longer, and these ones in the bottom are going to be kind of short little tabs. Okay. Darker toward the center, smaller, little bibbies, giving some bibbies. Isn't that fun? Fun. You having fun, hon?
I can barely contain myself over here. I got my mic off just so I don't disturb the show.
You're like Fitzpickle does when he gets excited.
Bite everything? No, I'm not going to bite everything. Come over there and chew on the canvas.
Yeah. Okay, so doing some of these darker. If you do them darker, they're going to look like they're kind of shadowed. So look a little bit more natural. If you have some that are kind of different tones, they don't have to all be the same brightness. Do another one kind of facing upward here. And another. And again, this is kind of like what we were talking about with the leaves. They're not all going to be facing us. So doing them like kind of turned in different directions is going to be more natural. So keep that in mind while you're making these. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to that reddish Cadmium Red Light here. Dab in a little bit more of that. The centers. I'm going to define those a little bit better. Kind of go over the top of some of the outlines of the flowers. And just put some colors in some random places. Okay, go. And then I think, yeah, like you could even put some over here if you wanted to pull that color over in other places. It's up to you, whatever you wanted to do. I'm going to go ahead and go back. I'm going to get a smaller round now. This way I can kind of control it a little bit better. I'm going to get some of my unbleached titanium. Get a little bit of water with the brush, so brush that out. And I'm going to go back in here and just dab in a little bit more of the highlights there, a little bit on the center. And then I'm going to get some of the burnt umber, or burnt sienna and burnt umber, both. I've got a little bit of this color in there, but it's going to be like darker. Just kind of brush over there. I'm going to get some of the yellow oxide and use the yellow oxide around the sides. It kind of attaches right there. Gonna pull it down a little bit right there. A little tiny bit of the white. Okay. And if you wanted to, I've got another pumpkin where I did a big long curly stem on it. I really like doing a curly stem on a pumpkin, but I decided to leave this one because since it's kind of from the top down, it kind of, I don't know, I like the pentagon shape in there that it's creating, so I decided to go ahead and leave it and not change the center, but you can get creative with it if you want to. Okay, gonna get some yellow oxide and my cadmium yellow. That's gonna create a bright yellow. We can use it in just a few places. So. This is where I'm going to be adding my bright highlights. Not as much of this color up in here, but I'm going to put just a hint of it. Okay, and then get my white. And I haven't cleaned out my brush, so this white will have just a little bit of yellow in it. I'm going to very light touches here. And if the paint does not come off, then add a little bit more water, because the tendency will be to start pressing down harder if your paint's not coming off. And that's kind of the thing that I see happen a lot. People will have, trouble. The paint won't be coming off the brush, and then they'll just press down harder to get the paint to come off. Well, then you're not controlling it. The brush is controlling you. So it'll come off in big globs, and you won't have control. So if it's not coming off your brush easily, just get a little bit of water. That'll handle that. It'll take care of it. The paint should be wet. The brush should be fairly dry-ish. I don't like that color there, so I'm going to get more of my orange. Just going to dab that over.
Is it a Filbert-y type of brush?
Yes, this is the short Filbert, the number 4 short Filbert. Getting the burnt umber here, adding it to burnt sienna and some of this yellow here. Just creating kind of a darker brownish color with the yellow. There. I want it darker than that. There we go. Just dabbing it on to create that shadow there. And then this is where I can go through and go, okay, these, look at my shadows, beef up my shadows, beef up my highlights. After you do your last round of highlights, you think that you're done, then start looking at your shadows and make sure that they're dark enough. If your shadows aren't dark enough, it doesn't matter what your highlights look like, because it's not going to give you any depth or roundedness, to your piece. So if you're just looking kind of flat and you're not really sure, then I would just go a little bit darker on your shadows. So I'm going to pick up some of the burnt umber here, and I'm just going to go in my cracks here and along the bottom here and just kind of darken up some of these seams where that dark color's peeking through. And I've got it watered down, so it's just going on thin. I can use my finger to kind of smush it around a little bit. This is just burnt umber here. A little bit of water. You think about where the overlapping is happening. So this is in front of this, so this one's going to have the shadow behind it here. This one being overlapped by this one. This one's going to have the shadow at the bottom, so it rounds out, going down into our grass. Okay, and then this is dry now, so I'm going to get my white and do one more layer with really bright white pink here. Again, I'm not going to do it on all of them. I'm just going to do the ones that I think might be, you know, kind of catching more light. Go back in with the medium pink color. Let me get this number 2-aught here. A little bit of yellow and green. Some white. And I'm just going to find some of these lines here and add just a little bit of this lime green color to them. My yellow and my white. Just going to kind of define the tips of just a few of these. This brush is a little bit thick for this, but get the idea. It's kind kind of was a kind of a glob of, I don't really like these flowers too much, to be honest, so I might just do the pink ones around here instead of these if I had it to do over. Just because I don't think that they're as easy to get right to get to look right as the other ones are. I think I put too many of them in here in the middle, so there's not a lot of separation. It's a lot of white. So I mean, I guess I could go back in with the brown and green. Cover over some of these areas that I don't like. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Okay, then there's one more set of like the little ivy that's down here that I want to put in because I really like they're cute. I don't want to put those in. So I'm going to get that dark green, but this is actually, this one, these ivy down here are actually pretty light. So I'm going to get the yellow and green. I had a little bit of that brown color that was down here. I'm going to do a line from right about here. Just kind of meander it off page, and then I'm going to dab just a few with the tip of the brush. Little ivies. I'm just doing 3 little brush strokes, kind of all overlapping. 1, 2, 3. Using the tip of the brush. I would practice that just to make sure that you got it before you did it over the top of your pumpkin, because you don't want to have to fix it. I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight on some of these. Did you see anything? Do you see anything I missed?
We did see a pumpkin on your palette.
Really? Is it gone now?
No, it's still there.
Where?
It looks like a pumpkin that I would paint. Right there in the middle, it's got the orange stem.
See it.
Oh,
That's
now
great.
that I described it as one that I would paint, you see it. Okay, I get it. All right. There's almost like 2 there, one right above it also.
Right here. That big one right there. That's cute. Alright, using the burnt sienna here. I don't use the burnt sienna much. And just glazing a little bit and adding kind of tabs. These pumpkins are not as smooth as I have them, so I mean, if you want to make them more lumpy, you can just kind of go back through here and kind of add some lumps and bumps and things. It's up to you. Kind of. cute. All right, I'm going to stop there. And sign it. Do I want to sign it? I think I'm going to sign it with the brush. Well, no. I'm going to sign it with the pen. Here we go. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hanging out with us again. Hope you enjoyed it. And hope you learned something maybe. And if not, sorry. I'll try better next time.
We'll refund your money.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been fun. So if you paint this, you can share it with me. I've got a Facebook group just set up just for that. So I can easily find what you're sharing with me. And the links for that and all my other social media stuff is down in the description. My Instagram, I post pictures of the finished paintings. So if you want to see them for, when you're painting yours, if you want to kind of have that as a reference, you can look at that, my Instagram feed there. And filling in some.
And Angela breaking all of the art rules, dispelling all the myths that just because you sign a painting doesn't mean you can't go back and keep working on it for another half hour.
I know.
But that's okay. We understand why.
Getting the burnt umber here.
So we encourage everybody to like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe.
Yes.
Check out all the upcoming playlist.
Yeah,
for
you
October.
can set a reminder too. We haven't talked about that in a while, but they have a little reminder bell right next to the subscribe button, and also just for each video. So if you don't want to get notified of all of our videos, you just want that one, you can have it send you an email, or you can sign up for our newsletter, and our newsletter will remind you. We send it out once a week on Fridays, and it just has kind of everything we're working on from Patreon and this, and you get recipes and other things from time to time. Pictures of our dog. You never know what you're going to get. So the newsletter is a lot of fun though. So, but yeah, that's probably the best way to keep abreast of what we're doing. That's thankfulart.com. It's our website, and you get a free video if you sign up for the newsletter too. So look for that. Nice. Mandarin duck. If you sign up for the Mandarin duck bonus video thing, there's a little pop-up that'll pop up when you visit the website, and it'll ask you if you want a free video, and yeah, they'll sign you up for our newsletter. So
no free video this Saturday.
Nope, no video this Saturday. We are going to be hopefully doing a yard sale if it's not raining, hopefully.
But hopefully. Sunday is the bonus video.
Yes, Sunday is the bonus video. We'll be doing that with our patrons, $5 and up. So
very good.
Hope you'll join us for that. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.